ahead. We're good to go. Okay. Yeah, we're good. Good to. All right. Welcome to the July 3rd, 2025 Board of Zoning Appeals meeting. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Let's start with a roll call. Board Member Scales.
Present.
Board Member Langley. Present. Board Member Smith.
Present.
And Board Member Fleischauer.
Here.
All right, so Board Member Beams is absent tonight. Let's move on to citizen comments. This is open for citizens to be heard on any issue or concern. If you would like to be, or if you'd like to speak on a specific item on the agenda, please wait until the citizen comment period for that item. For all citizen comments, please fill out a speaker card, and those are at this table up here. Come up to the microphone and state your name and address, and please limit your comments to 2 minutes. It's kind of general comment period. We're going to also have public, kind of the public hearing for each individual item as we go forward as well. So are there any citizens that would like to speak to the board this time? All right, seeing none.
You mean about something here?
We have a general comment period at the beginning. We'll also have public comment for each individual item as we get to each item as well.
Okay.
So,
Do you want us to speak now or later?
If you're here for a particular item, wait for that item.
Okay, I'm here
And
for
we'll
it.
give you a time to come up for that.
Got it. Thank you.
You're
I've
welcome.
heard.
It's really kind of hard to hear you from here. I don't know if you can turn that mic up or not, but I'm a little bit hard to hear.
I don't know that we can. Our sound staff may be able to help us there, but I'll try to speak up and not scream for. You're welcome. All right, so moving on, want to mention that item number 2, the applicant has requested to withdraw that item. So we'll go ahead. Is there a motion to?
Move that we remove that item from the agenda.
Okay, motion made. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Board Member Smith, second by Board Member Scales. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, anyone opposed? All right, so item 2 is removed from the agenda. Next, we'll move to the minutes. Consideration of approval of the June 5th, 2025 meeting minutes. Is there a motion for approval?
I move we approve the minutes of the June 5th meeting.
Motion made by Board Member Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Scales. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Is that better on the sound in the back? Any better? Okay. So item number 2, we'll skip that one. We just made the motion to withdraw that item. So moving on to item number 3. Item 3 is a variance request to allow the principal building to encroach 10 feet into the 25-foot front setback along Winslow Road with an additional 6-foot appurtenance encroachment for the property located at 246 Miles Manor Court. Staff?
Thank you. This 0.21 acre property is located at 246 Miles Manor Court and is zoned R4 Residential District. It's also within the Historic Preservation Overlay and the Central Franklin Overlay. The applicant is proposing a single-family house on the property. Because this is a corner lot, the property has 2 front setbacks, a 31-foot setback along Miles Manor Court and a 25-foot setback along Winslow Road. With the width of the lot being approximately 60 feet, the front setback of 25 feet along Winslow Road and the 7-foot side setback, the width of the buildable area is approximately 28 feet. The applicant has faced challenges designing a home that complies with the 25-foot front setback along Winslow Road that the Historic Preservation Design Review Committee, or DRC, would also support. The applicant attended DRC on June 2024, August 2024, and September 2024. The applicant then submitted for a Certificate of Appropriateness, or COA, and attended the November 2024 Historic Zoning Commission, or HZC, meeting. The COA was denied, and it was discovered that the property needed to be replatted to consolidate the original lots, which had been sold by deed but had not established revised lot lines. Once the property was in the process of replatting, the required 25-foot front setback along Winslow Road was established based on the survey and calculations of the existing block face per R4 zoning district requirements. When it proved difficult to design a contextually relevant home within the setback requirement along Winslow Road, the applicant submitted design plans to the DRC showing 3 different setback options along Winslow Road: 15 feet, 20 feet, and 25 feet. The Assistant Historic Preservation Planner, Elizabeth Boulay, sent the following language to the applicant as a recap of the feedback provided by the DRC at the March 2025 meeting. There was not support for a house that would be as narrow as it would be required to be within a 25-foot setback by the commissioners present at the meeting. The narrow building is not compatible with the neighborhood. The commissioners supported exploring an option for which the front portion of the building has a 15-foot setback from the frontage on Winslow Road, and the rear of the building has an inset and maintains a greater setback, such as 20 feet or 25 feet more along Winslow Road. This may assist in keeping the building compatible with both block faces and be sensitive to the setbacks along Winslow Road. Staff would like to note that DRC feedback is non-binding, so the feedback they receive regarding their preferences on the design is not a binding requirement, purely discussion and feedback. Based on this feedback, the applicant submitted a new request for a COA and attended HCC in April 2025, and that request was denied due to architectural details that the HCC determined weren't appropriate for the house. The applicant then submitted again for June 2025 HCC meeting, at which time the application was approved, with one condition being that a variance would be necessary for the setback along Winslow Road. In order to move forward with the design plans approved by the HCC with conditions, the applicant is requesting a variance request to allow the principal building to encroach 10 feet into the 25-foot front setback along Winslow Road with an additional 6-foot appurtenance encroachment for the front porch. Staff analysis. I'm only going to read through the 3 criteria for this first request. So for the next 2 items, please let me know if you'd like me to reread any of the criteria. The BZA may authorize a variance only when the request has met all 3 criteria in accordance with the Franklin zoning ordinance and state law. Staff has completed an analysis of the request in light of these 3 criteria. Criteria 1, where by reason of exceptional narrowness, shallowness, or shape of a specific piece of property at the time of the enactment of the zoning ordinance, or by reason of exceptional topographic conditions or other extraordinary and exceptional situations or conditions, such a piece of property is not able to accommodate development as required under this ordinance. This lot is not more narrow than the rest of the lots along Miles Manor Court on average, but being a corner lot and having 2 front setbacks does limit the buildable area of the lot to a smaller width than the existing houses on the street. In addition to the narrow condition of the lot, the property being in the Historic Preservation Overlay requires them to get approval from the Historic Zoning Commission, or HCC. Since the DRC gave the applicant feedback to move forward with the 15-foot setback along Winslow Road, the HCC likely would not have approved a house with a 25-foot setback because the DRC determined it would not fit the context of the historic neighborhood. Seeing as the narrow condition of the lot likely would have prevented the HCC from approving a house that fits within the required setbacks, staff finds this criteria is met. Criteria 2. The strict application of any provision enacted under the zoning ordinance would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties for, or exceptional or undue hardship upon the owner of the property. The strict application of the zoning ordinance does present exceptional practical difficulties for the owner of this property. Given the required setbacks, the house would need to be more narrow than the rest of the houses on Miles Manor Court, and the design of the house would not fit the context of the street. Seeing as this is a historic neighborhood, the house fitting the context of the street is a reasonable concern, as it is a concern to both the owner of the house and to the DRC and the HCC. Complying with the required setbacks would likely prevent approval from the HCC, therefore staff finds this criteria is met. Criteria 3. Such relief may be granted without substantial detriment to the public good and without substantially impairing the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance. Staff finds that this request would not be a detriment to the public good and would not impair the intent of the zoning ordinance. The intent of designing this house with a 15-foot setback from the lot line to the house is to construct a house that fits the context of the historic neighborhood. The zoning ordinance regulation for the front setbacks is that principal buildings must would match the average setback of existing buildings on the same block face, but no closer to the front lot line than the closest adjacent building. The intent of this regulation is that houses would be designed to fit the context of the neighborhood. The goal of this design is to meet the intent of this zoning ordinance regulation. The width of the house helps the design fit the context of the houses along Miles Manor Court, and the width and the varied setback of the house along Winslow Road helps that front setback fit contextually along Winslow Road. Staff finds this criteria is met. Recommended motion. Staff recommends that the Board of Zoning Appeals move to approve the variance request to allow the principal building to encroach 10 feet into the 25-foot front setback along Winslow Road with an additional 6-foot appurtenance encroachment for the property located at 246 Miles Manor Court because the criteria for granting a variance have been met. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Is the applicant present for this item? If you could step forward for us and state your name for the record.
Hello, my name is Andrew King with AK Designs, and this project has been a year-long process, and I thank you so much for the description there. That was very long and pretty much everything I was going to say, but the main thing was just a year-long with the HCC was just trying to get that massing on the front to get them to get their approval, and I guess without this variance, it will be pretty hard to get their approval to build on this lot. And originally, just some history on this lot, it was part of this Miles Manor neighborhood, the 5 lots, 5 lots that are facing Miles Manor. But I guess sometime in the 90s, somebody subdivided it, but it never got truly platted. So the setbacks we're requesting are pretty much the same. There's the same setbacks that are in the neighborhood. It's the same setback as the other corner lot that on Miles Manor, so.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we will open, here we are to the individual items. So for this item, we're going to go ahead and open the public comment. Are there any citizen comments on this item? If so, you're welcome to step forward for us. All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public comment?
I move we close the public comment.
Motion made by Board Member Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Man, that was like instantaneous. Second by Board Member Flushhour. We'll give you a little credit down there. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? All right, seeing none, the public comment is closed. Any questions from the board, of staff, or the applicant? If not, I'm ready to entertain a motion.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the variance request to allow the principal building to encroach 10 feet into the 25-foot front setback along Winslow Road with an additional 6-foot appurtenance encroachment for the property located at 246 Miles Manor Court because the criteria for granting a variance has been met.
Okay, motion for approval made by Board Member Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Flushhour. Let's go one by one on the vote. Board Member Scales.
Approve.
Board Member Langley, approved. Board Member Smith.
Approve.
And Board Member Flushhour.
Approved.
All right, this variance is approved. Thank you. Next is item number 4. It's going to be a variance request to allow a roof pitch of 1.5 by 12 for an addition to an existing building for the property located at 109 Carolyn Avenue. Staff.
Thank you. Sorry about that. This 0.44 acre property is located at 109 Carolyn Avenue and is zoned R4 Residential District. The applicant is proposing an addition onto the back of the existing house. The existing house has multiple roof elements with their roof pitches ranging from 312 to 512. In order to extend the roof of the addition from the existing roof line, the applicant would like for the addition to have a roof pitch of 1.5 12. The roof pitch of a house is permitted to be between 312 and 1212 per the zoning ordinance requirements. For this reason, the applicant is requesting a variance to allow a roof pitch of 1.5 12 for an addition to an existing building. Staff analysis. Criteria 1. Staff finds that there's no condition of the property preventing the addition from to this home from having a 312 roof pitch. While it may not achieve the desired view of the house from the front, it is possible to accommodate development as required under this ordinance. Staff finds this criteria is not met. Criteria 2, the strict application of the zoning ordinance in this case causes practical difficulties in designing the addition. In order to achieve a roof pitch of 312 for the addition to the house, the roof line of the existing house would need to be extended upward and complicates the design of the addition. While this can be achieved, it does impose practical difficulties for cohesive construction. Staff finds this criteria is met. Criteria 3, staff finds this request would not be a detriment to the public good or impair the intent of the zoning ordinance. The intent of the addition having 1.512 roof pitch is to maintain the existing roof line view from the street. This would ensure that the low-profile character of the house is maintained and the house would fit the context of the street. The intent of this zoning ordinance regulation is to maintain consistency in the design and character of houses. Designing this addition in a way that minimizes the alteration of the character and view of the house from the street meets the intent of this ordinance regulation. Staff finds this criteria is met. Recommended motion. Staff recommends that the Board of Zoning Appeals move to deny the variance request to allow a roof pitch of 1.512 for an addition to an existing building for the property located at 109 Carolyn Avenue because the criteria for granting a variance have not all been met. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Is the applicant present for this item? If you could step forward for us and state your name, and then if you have any additional comments kind of beyond the staff report, you're welcome to present those to us.
My name is Keegan Fox, and my wife and I bought 109 Carolyn back in March, and we were quite excited about it because we raised our kids in Franklin. We've always lived in Franklin, and we were downsizing, and we're looking for a one-level house. And this met everything we were going to need. And we were just excited about a mid-century house, and we don't want to change anything about the house. And as the house looks now is how we want it to look after the remodel. What's unique about this lot, and that's our problem, is we meet criteria 2 and 3, but we don't meet criteria 1. But what's unique about this lot, and the staff has not been out there to look at this lot, is we're on one of the highest points on Carolyn Avenue. And we already look down on the roof from our home to the house next door, and it just keeps stepping down. And to meet this roof pitch, we basically are putting a church steeple on top of a mid-century house, and it just doesn't match the rest of the neighborhood. And we have gone back to past meetings like Historical District and all, and they are adamant about mid-century houses staying in Franklin because it's part of the fabric of Franklin. And that's all we're trying to do is just keep a house like it is. And this roof pitch variance is causing a problem on keeping this house like it was originally intended. And we've got neighbors here. We've got Joe Keeter, who was with Codes until her retirement, and Gail and Craig Parker, who are across the street, and they both have the same roof pitch. All the neighbors around us have the same roof pitch. And then this remodel is causing us to just have a strange-looking roof all of a sudden. And I'm going to hand off to our architect, David Ayers, and maybe he can help with the lot slope, and then my wife's got some comments, and then y'all can open it up to the floor. I guess that's how it is. But here's a picture. The lower picture is a house now, and it's same design, Miss Keeter's house, and then the one on top is what y'all are asking us to do, and it's just not consistent with the neighborhood. And that's what we would like to do. That's what we were excited about, is keeping an old Franklin mid-century house as though it was. So I'm going to hand this off to David Ayers.
I'm David Ayers. I designed this makeover and remodel for Nona and Get over on Carolyn Avenue. And we seem to meet the criteria for, 2 out of 3 criteria for getting a variance, and the other criteria, I'm not sure how close we come to meeting it, but this case is really, truly a case of enforcement of the ordinance. In this case, defeats the purpose of the ordinance, defeats the intent of the ordinance. The ordinance is to keep some of Old Franklin. We want to keep this house as it is, instead of putting this thing on top of it, so it's just not to have a flattish roof on the back. And the flattish roof on the back is in a very normal and usual place for a flattish roof to be. In fact, the house next door has one, the one they're looking down on. So that's really what I can say. It really is a case of enforcing the ordinance. In this case, defeats the purpose of the ordinance. It defeats the intent of it. And to give a variance would help keep the intent of the ordinance intact.
Any additional comments?
Pardon me?
Any additional comments at all?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Do you have any additional comments?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you. All right, next we will open the public comment.
No, I'm the owner of the house.
We own together.
Yeah. I just wanted to say, I've been a realtor in Franklin for right at 30 years, July the 8th. And I listed a house over 4 years ago on 1335 Adams Street. And it's the last mid-century modern that's in the historic overlay. I have that house listed now currently again, and it's just about like the house that we just bought to move into. And that house, the person that bought that house and turned around and sold it because the historic overlay would not allow any variance on the roof or any changes to the front of that house. So I didn't think it made any sense for us to live within 100 yards of a house in the historic overlay that's a mid-century modern, and that house can't be changed, but this one's being forced to be changed, and it's a mid-century modern as well. So anyway, I just wanted to point that out, and I know and I'm aware that the Preservation Board met on March the 24th to preserve the integrity of the roof lines of mid-century moderns in downtown Franklin and to keep them like they have been and not be forced to be a tear down. And so I just wanted to say that we want to make this our home. We have our uncle that stays with us a whole lot. He's 88. And we really had a passion for it, the love of being able to live in it, enjoy it, and raising the roof on it. It doesn't seem like it brings any value to that house whatsoever, because as you go down the street, if we were able to keep it like David has drawn it on our architectural drawings, you will not be able to look at that house from the exterior and see that there's been some kind of odd modification made to that house. So we raised our kids here, Franklin. They went to Franklin High School, and we just wanted to kind of come back and finish our days out here in Franklin and enjoy and it being a positive experience. And it's going to really throw a wrench in it for us. And the other thing I wanted to say, too, is when I'm standing in the kitchen of that house, I'm looking already down on the Lanier house on the right-hand side. I'm looking at the top of her roof already. The start of our lot to the end of our lot, there's a 12.5-foot drop. If you're in our kitchen to go next door to the next house, we're literally looking on top of that roof. From our kitchen. There's a 12.5 drop to the neighbors. We're at, like he said, one of the highest points on that street. So I don't have anything else to add except I understand what y'all are trying to accomplish here, And we're trying to accomplish, we felt like the very same thing that y'all are trying to do here, so. We hope and pray that y'all will consider this variance.
All right, thank you for your comments. All right, next we will open the public comment. Are there any citizen comments on this item?
I live across the street from this nice lady that just bought. My name is Gail Parker, and we bought our house on Carolyn about 3 years ago because it is all the way it was. There's no houses torn down and big houses built back. When this lady bought that house, I ran across the street and hugged her when she told me she wasn't going to tear it down and build a mansion. Please let our street stay the way it is all I'm asking. You know, I don't understand why it has to change. We love it. Everybody does. That's all I got.
All right, any additional citizen comments? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public comment?
I move to close the public comment.
Motion made by Board Member Scales. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Smith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, anyone opposed? All right, public comment is closed. Questions from the board of staff of the applicant? If not, I'm ready to entertain a motion.
I move we approve the variance request to allow a roof pitch of 1.512 for an addition to an existing building for the property located at 109 Carolyn Avenue. Because the criteria for granting the variance have been met, and I will explain my thought about item number 1, condition 1. In that condition, it specifically says, or other extraordinary and exceptional situation or condition. That street is a mid-century modern street. That house is in keeping the way it is today with that street. The lot is, as I drove by it today, is up, it's elevated above the street. To make it even higher is not in keeping with that neighborhood. So I do feel that condition 1 has been met.
Motion for approval of the variance made by Board Member Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second by Board Member Scales. Further discussion?
I just want to echo your comments. I know the same thing you did. It says very clearly, or other extraordinary or exceptional situation. We're trying to maintain the character of this neighborhood, this mid-century modern neighborhood. To add that higher roof, I think, takes away from that character. It's very important. And so I fully agree with your comments.
I'll echo that as well. I don't know that we've seen roof pitch at the Board of Zoning Appeals before. I can't remember in my time on the board. Definitely a unique situation. I like the neighborhood. I mean, it's, you know, important. There aren't many mid-century homes left in most towns. You know, there's a section that are, but rambling ranches are the rarity, so kind of keeping those is important. So that's my thoughts on that. Also wanted to mention, we did receive, Alderman Baggett provided an email to staff. We do have that in our packet, so. Any discussion, Jeff?
No, I'm good with it.
All right, let's go one by one on the vote. Board Member Scales.
Approve.
Board Member Langley, approved. Board Member Smith.
Approve.
And Board Member Fleischauer.
Approved.
All right, so this variance is approved.
Thank you, guys.
Give it 1 second here, and then we'll move to the next item. All right, so item number 5, it's going to be a variance request to allow a 2-foot 6-inch encroachment into the required 7-foot side yard setback for an existing principal building, and a variance request to allow a 2-foot and 6-inch encroachment into the required 5-foot side yard setback for an existing appurtenance on an accessory structure, and a variance request to allow a lot to have a minimum landscape surface area of 26% for the property located at 417 Forest Street. And that is a mouthful. Staff.
Thank you. This 0.22 acre lot is located at 417 Forest Street and is zoned R4 Residential District. There's an existing house and accessory structure on the lot. The existing house, accessory structure, and paved areas were built in 2022, but were not built according to the building permit that was submitted and approved in November 2022. As a result of this, there are multiple zoning ordinance violations. First, the existing house encroaches into the east side setback. Principal buildings in the R4 zoning district are required to have a minimum side setback of 7 feet. The house is located approximately 4 feet and 8 inches from the side lot line and may need to encroach up to 4 feet and 6 inches from the lot line to fire rate the side wall of the house, hence the variance request to encroach up to 2 feet and 6 inches into the 7-foot setback. Structures that are located less than 5 feet from a property line are required to fire rate the structure along that property line for safety purposes. There is a possibility that they could install a sprinkler system to resolve the issue, but they may need to add additional material to the side of the house to fire rate the wall if a sprinkler system is not feasible for this property. Staff has confirmed that this solution shouldn't add more than 2 inches onto the side of the house if that's the solution they need to pursue. Second, the appurtenance or the concrete patio attached to the accessory structure is in the backyard, encroaches into the west side setback. This concrete patio was not shown on the approved building permit and qualifies as an appurtenance. Appurtenances are allowed to encroach up to 5 feet into a side yard setback, but no closer than 5 feet from the lot line. This patio is 2.5 feet from the side lot line. And third, the lot does not meet the zoning ordinance minimum landscape surface area, or LSA, requirement. The approved building permit showed significantly less paved area than what was built, and the paved driveway was shown as permeable pavers. There's a portion of the permeable pavers in the front yard area, but the rest of the paved areas on the lot are impervious concrete. As calculated on the submitted survey, the LSA is currently 26%. The R4 residential zoning district requires a minimum of 40% LSA. Due to the complicated history of this lot, staff finds it relevant to provide a timeline of events. In November 14th of 2022, the building permit was approved by the City of Franklin. From 2022 to 2024, building inspections were performed as established in the 2018 International Residential Code and the City of Franklin inspection schedule. The zoning ordinance violations are not intended to be caught through the building inspection process. Building inspections are only to ensure the minimum building code is met. In September 2024, a red sign was posted on the property stating that this house did not yet have a certificate of occupancy and was not yet allowed to be occupied. From 2023 to 2024, the owner attempted to sell the house. Staff further studied the plans, and a site visit to the property brought into question the placement of the building on this lot. After confirming the discrepancies between the approved building permit and the house that was built, Shanna McCoy, the City of Franklin's zoning and floodplain administrator, made the owner of the home aware that there were multiple aspects of the home that did not meet the zoning ordinance requirements. In 2025, the owner was not able to sell the house, and the bank foreclosed on the home at the beginning of 2025. In 2025, First Bank listed the property with Pilkerton Realtors. March 10, 2025, Shanna McCoy spoke with the listing agent with Pilkerton Realtors. Shanna McCoy explained that the existing home is encroaching into the side setback and that a certificate of occupancy would not be issued until either a variance is issued or the structure is moved or demolished and rebuilt. She also explained that the driveway has to be removed and replaced with pervious material to meet the LSA requirement. March 13, 2025, Brian Biglin closed on the house. March 14, 2025, Brian Biglin came to the Building and Neighborhood Services Department and spoke with Randall Tosh and William Holcomb regarding the property. Brian Biglin then submitted a records request for the property. Shanna McCoy spoke with Mr. Biglin on the phone during the week of March 17th to the 21st and explained the issues. Ms. McCoy then scheduled a meeting with Mr. Biglin for March 26th. Mr. Biglin came to the meeting with an attorney, and Bill Squires, the City of Franklin Assistant City Attorney, was unavailable, so the meeting had to be rescheduled. The meeting was rescheduled for April 2nd, and staff went through all the issues with Mr. Biglin. Given the existing zoning ordinance violations, the applicant is requesting 3 variances. First, a variance request to allow a 2-foot and 6-inch encroachment into the required 7-foot side yard setback for an existing principal building. Second, a variance request to allow a 2-foot and 6-inch encroachment into the required 5-foot side yard setback for an existing appurtenance on an accessory structure. And third, a variance request to allow a lot to have a minimum landscape surface area of 26%. I'll now go into staff analysis. For request 1, to allow a 2-foot and 6-inch encroachment into the required 7-foot side yard setback for an existing principal building. Criteria 1 for request 1. Staff does not find any extraordinary conditions of this property that would prevent a single-family home from being located the required 7 feet from the side property line on this property. The approved building permit shows an approximately 2,000 square foot home could be built within the setback requirements of this lot. Staff finds this criteria is not met. Criteria 2 for request 1. Staff does not find that the strict application of any provision enacted under the zoning ordinance would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties for or exceptional or undue hardship upon the owner of the property. The hardship of needing to remedy the existing house that was built out of compliance is self-imposed. The practical difficulties presented by this situation are a result of the house not being built according to the approved plans, not a result of the strict application of the zoning ordinance. Staff finds this criteria is not met. Criteria 3 for request 1. Staff finds that this request may be a detriment to the public good and would impair the intent of the zoning ordinance. The house is located very close to the neighboring house at 415 Forest Street. Part of the intent of the zoning ordinance regulation is to provide a buffer between buildings and to have aesthetic consistency with setbacks in a neighborhood. With this house being so close to the side lot line and the neighboring house also being close to that lot line, the space between the buildings is only 6.5 feet and does not seem to be sufficient buffer for the property owners and does not fit the context of the street. This does not meet the intent of the zoning ordinance. Staff finds that this criteria is not met. Request 2, to allow a 2-foot and 6-inch encroachment into the required 5-foot side yard setback for an existing appurtenance on an accessory structure. Criteria 1 for request 2. Staff does not find any extraordinary conditions with this property that would prevent development of an accessory structure and appurtenance within the setbacks on this property. The approved building permit shows an accessory structure built within the setback requirements of this lot, and it was not a condition of the lot that required the appurtenance to be located within the side setback. Staff finds this criteria is not met. Criteria 2 for request 2. Staff does not find that the strict application of any provision enacted under the zoning ordinance would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties or exceptional or undue hardship upon the owner of the property. The hardship of needing to remedy the existing appurtenance that was built out of compliance is self-imposed. The practical difficulties presented by this situation are a result of the appurtenance not being built according to the approved plans, not a result of the strict application of the zoning ordinance. Staff finds this criteria is not met. Criteria 3 for request 2. Staff finds that this appurtenance may be a detriment to the public good and would impair the intent of the zoning ordinance. The majority of the driveway is located against the property line where the original driveway was located. At the review of the building permit, staff required that any new portion of the driveway would need to curve away from the property line to comply with the required 5-foot setback for driveways. With this required curve and setback of the driveway, it is apparent that the patio encroaches closer to the lot line than the back of the driveway and accessory structure are allowed to be. In addition, the patio being so close to the neighboring property to the west may cause noise and nuisance concerns. Staff finds this criteria is not met. Request 3, to allow a lot to have a minimum landscape surface area of 26%. Criteria 1 for request 3. Staff does not find any extraordinary conditions of this property that would prevent development with the required 40% LSA on this property. The approved building permit meets the LSA requirements and was not a condition of the lot that required the additional paved areas and lack of pervious pavement. Staff finds this criteria is not met. Criteria 2 for request 3. Staff does not find that the strict application of any provision enacted under the zoning ordinance would result in peculiar and exceptional practical difficulties for or exceptional or undue hardship upon the owner of the property. The hardship of needing to remedy the existing pavement that was installed out of compliance is self-imposed. The practical difficulties presented by this situation are a result of the pavement not being installed according to the approved plan, not a result of the strict application of the zoning ordinance. Staff finds this criteria is not met. Criteria 3 for request 3. Staff finds that this request may be a detriment to the public good and would impair the intent of the zoning ordinance. Part of the intent of this ordinance, the minimum landscape surface area regulation, is to ensure that stormwater runoff is not displaced onto neighboring properties. With the majority of the lot being covered in impervious pavement, stormwater runoff would likely be displaced onto the neighboring properties. LSA is also regulated to preserve green space, encourage sustainable development, and maintain consistency in the design of lots. Covering 73.9% of the lot in impervious surfaces does not align with the intent of the sustainable development and green space preservation ideals, and is apparent that the LSA provided on this lot is not consistent with the neighboring properties. Staff finds this criteria is not met. Recommended motion. Staff recommends that the Board of Zoning Appeals move to deny the variance request to allow a 2-foot and 6-inch encroachment into the required 7-foot side yard setback for an existing principal building, and deny the variance request to allow a 2-foot and 6-inch encroachment into the required 5-foot side yard setback for an existing appurtenance on an accessory structure, and deny the variance request to allow a lot to have a minimum landscape surface area of 26% for the property located at 417 Forest Street, because the criteria for granting a variance have not been met. Thank you.
Thank you, staff. Is the applicant present for this item? If you could step forward for us and state your name and then add any additional comments.
Yes, good evening. My name is Brian Biglin. Good evening. My name is Brian Biglin. I'm the new owner of this property. So in response to the staff's report, which I didn't have obviously when I wrote my letter, let me read kind of my response to some of these. So first of all, thank you for hearing my petition. About 4 years ago, I moved to Franklin, retired, semi-retired, and I found the city very welcoming, and I love it here so far. What I'm doing in my retirement is essentially buying some real estate properties, creating a portfolio. And this house caught my eye when it was actually before it went through this process. I was watching it. I really liked the downtown area, and when I saw it come on the market for within my budget, it had been decreased quite a bit. I called the listing agent and went and saw the home. When I entered the home, what I found was a beautiful home, had been ransacked, stripped of all things that could be taken. The prior builder, I don't know what happened, whether it was subs or just the neighborhood or people he told, but they had come in and taken everything that they could take, outlets and so forth. That was disappointing to see, but really what I saw was that all this could be replaced. It was not structural damage. They were actually pretty kind the way they took things out. They didn't, rip wires out of the walls, or they actually capped things off. And so it was in pretty actually good condition considering the circumstances. When, I did notice that, I'm not an expert. I'm not a builder. I'm not, I don't do this. I didn't do this for a living for 30 years. I was in financial services. And to my eyes, yes, I certainly noticed that the house was pretty close to the lot line. And yes, there was a lot of concrete with the house. But I'm really wasn't familiar with the ordinances. I can say that I am now quite familiar with the ordinances, thanks to these ladies to my right and left. I also read in the realtor notes, because I became a realtor as part of this process earlier this year, it just said that the house didn't have a certificate of occupancy. And because the house was sold in a foreclosure, the bank was not required to disclose anything about the property. So it was not disclosed to me that there was an issue with setbacks on the house. And, so I had to sign a waiver that they were not disclosing the condition of the property. So therefore, I bought it as is. And because of the waiver, I wasn't aware of any of the issues, the setbacks, the encroachment, the surface area violations were not present. And so after closing, I really was just going to the city to find out what permits had been pulled, where was it in the process, and how did I attain the occupancy permit. And that's when I found out, that that basically the house was built within the setback. Of course, I was shocked, and, now I own this property that, essentially was out of compliance with the requirements. So I did make a request for all the records. I got all the permits, all the inspections, and I did go through those in great detail. And I asked if there was anything else that, any outstanding violations that, were documented. And at the time, they had all been resolved. There were no notes in the public record that said anything about a zoning infraction. This was not discoverable even if I had looked before I bought the property, it was not discoverable in the public record that this had an issue. The staff note said that a red tag was put on the house. The prior owner took the red tag off, so there was no red tag when I went to visit the property. And it says also, the staff report says that, they notified the builder of this issue, but there's no date. It was a telephone call. There's no record in the public record that would have indicated that this phone call occurred or that this discussion happened. And also, it would have been difficult to clarify that because there was no as-built survey. And the lot lines there were basically unmarked. The survey that I did, they had to survey the whole block to get my lot lines. So, so it's difficult to know what's actually happened there. So my request to the board is that, prior to March 2025, nothing was caused by me. I wasn't involved. I wasn't involved with the property. And the primary purpose of the variance process is to address extraordinary, exceptional, or unique situations that were not caused by the applicant's act or omission. Not only were the prior acts not committed by me, but they were also undiscoverable in public record and undisclosed by the seller. I also submit that the City of Franklin inspectors, who are experts in the field, who visited the property on 51 separate occasions, should have caught the error earlier in the build process. And while it may be true that the building code says violations are not intended to be caught, does not mean that they should not have been caught by these experts and raised as an issue. So if I were required to demo this building, it would cost me $1,084,000 to rebuild. If I have to demo, I should also say, in this process, as an insurance policy for myself, I purchased the lot to the left. So lot 415, the lot is being encroached upon, I own that now. I also purchased, in the last week, the lot to the right. So I own both lots that are being encroached upon. Again, this as an insurance policy here. I don't want to lose the money I paid for that lot, and I don't want to lose, the money that I paid for the house or have to destroy the house. I'm trying to fix an error that occurred in the building process here. Not caused by me, caused by the prior builder. And, it's a real quantifiable hardship that I sincerely hope the board considers in this process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll probably have questions for you if you want to sit down for us, and we'll probably call you back up. We're likely to have a couple, I'm sure. So, all right, next we will open the public comment. Any citizen comments on this item? If you could state your name for us and your address, that'd be great.
My name is Juliette Lydell, and I live at 427 Forest Street, which is just about 5 houses down. It's a beautiful home, but one of the first things you notice when you drive by is, my goodness, look how close that is to the house next door. And I did hear recently that he bought both of the houses on either side. My main concern was the landscaping, the surface area of the landscaping there, and how it might affect the runoff in our neighborhood. And also, I think it sets a precedent for other people to come in and build and have more impervious, like concrete and asphalt, and further affect our drainage. And I think the natural look of our neighborhood, we've got, small houses and nice green little lots. So my main concern, though, was the landscaping. So that's it.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Are any additional comments? Tell you, if you could step to the,
Mike Derryberry, I own a house on Forest. Zero lot lines and rules, same variances for everybody in the neighborhood. We'll go with that and we'll have zero lot lines and do okay. In the past, back when a lady named Ms. Irma was at the desk in codes, she told me it was a 10-foot rule and was very adamant that I couldn't move a house, which she knew her dimensions better than I did. But that was 20 years ago. But we sort of need the variances. Some other people in the neighborhood were made to put both their lots into one while they worked on their house, which was really grandfathered in because it'd been the girl's grandmother. And we just need a set of rules for everybody. And the main thing, everybody that went to the neighborhood could see that guy was overbuilding the lot. I don't know why, but nobody ever said a thing. And y'all said codes inspected the lot, they did. But why? That's about all I've got to say.
okay, thank you for your comments. All right, I'll ask it again. I think everybody's spoken. Any additional citizen comments? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public comment? Motion made by Board Member Scales. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Board Member Smith. All in favor say aye. Aye. Or anyone opposed? All right, public comment is closed. Are any questions from the board, kind of factual-based questions, trying to limit back and forth, but want to make sure we understand the issues?
Happy to.
And thank you. Can you help me understand when you obtained your real estate license versus when you purchased the property?
Sure. I obtained my real estate license in January,
So
and I
after you
purchased,
purchased the property?
before.
Before.
I purchased the property in March.
Okay, so you had real estate license, and then you purchased the property.
Yeah.
I'm just curious, if it said there was no certificate of occupancy, why didn't you come to the city and ask why there was no certificate of occupancy for this?
Yeah, so I did ask, and, I looked at the home and it had been stripped of everything. So that's what I figured was the purpose or the reason for the occupancy, is it had been stripped of its, everything.
Did you ask one in the staff why it had not been?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't ask staff. I didn't know to ask staff, really. I mean, I've never done this before, and which is the reason I came with an attorney to the first meeting. I just, hadn't been through this before, so I really had no idea what to expect or even how to approach it. So.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Any additional questions?
The other two lots that you bought on either side, are there houses on those lots as
Yes.
well?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll ask a question because it would involve a replat. From staff's perspective, could you replat? I guess I'm thinking through what that process looks like. Demolition of existing structures, replatting, what would that look like from the applicant's standpoint?
In order to make this house comply?
So he had mentioned he had purchased the two adjacent, the lots. Could he replat the lot to make this conform with a replat, or would a replat be prohibited just from a process standpoint?
He could consolidate the lots so that the one next to it, where the side setback is encroaching, if those two lots became one, Now the house is very far away from the setback and meets setback requirements. It would also meet LSA requirements because now you have more area within the lot. There's a balance there. It does not solve the issue of the appurtenance on the other side unless he also consolidates that lot so that it's 3 going to 1.
Okay, that's helpful. So no issue with consolidating lots if that was an option. May not meet all the variance request items here. Okay, that's helpful. Thank you. Any additional questions?
If there is a house on that lot, he would have to take it down. You can only have one lot, one house per lot. So if you're consolidating lots and there's multiple homes, you would have to get rid of one. Sorry.
Okay.
So that obviously wouldn't. Is it the appurtenance on the other side, is it just a covered deck?
It's a very small, so basically what
You could
happened.
truncate that off.
Yeah, he built the ADU, I call it, I don't know, but the accessory dwelling in the back, and then there's a little sidewalk that goes to the back patio. It's just the sidewalk that is actually in that 2.5. So, I mean, worst case, I'll blow the sidewalk out and you just walk on the dirt.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, you could obviously rewrite
yeah,
that
that's
sidewalk.
probably the least of my worries. But,
Any additional questions? If not, I'm ready to entertain a motion. We'll, I'm sure, have discussion after a motion, so.
Thank you.
Thank
I move to deny the variance request to allow a 2-foot and 6-inch encroachment into the required 7-foot side yard setback for an existing principal building, and to deny the variance request to allow a 2-foot and 6-inch encroachment to the required 5-foot side yard setback for an existing appurtenance on an accessory structure, and to deny the variance request to allow a lot to have a minimum landscape surface area of 26% for the property located at 417 Forest Street, because the criteria for granting a variance have not been met.
Okay, motion for disapproval on all 3 variance requests made by Board Member Scales,
Seconded.
second by Board Member Smith. Discussion.
So the challenge I have here, and I can understand this is a situation that wasn't necessarily created by the applicant, and I understand he's trying to remedy a bad situation, but, I mean, to have a real estate license, to have the opportunity to understand that CO's there, to still purchase the property having known that, to me, you kind of assume what the previous person had. There are a number of issues with this property. If we were to consolidate, you have to tear down homes down. As is, unless we grant the variance, the structure may be removed. So I don't see how it could meet each of the 3 criteria for each of the items and remain true to the existing ordinance.
Any other discussion?
Well, I may not be following this exactly, but it sounds like if he could potentially take care of 2 out of these 3 with a little bit of demo. But he's got a problem with the principal building being in the setback. And I also had a question as we were reading through this. It calls for a 7-foot side yard setback when the 2 combined, there was only 6'6" in between the houses. So the other house has evidently a problem as well. Is that correct?
We do not have a survey on the other property, but yes, it is safe to say it is closer than 7 feet to the
That's what I
property line.
thought in the reading.
It's a non-conforming structure.
Yes, ma'am. So he has several problems here. And like I said, with a little bit of work, he could get rid of probably 2 of them, perhaps. And then maybe come back for a variance on on the last one. It's just my opinion, but as of right now, I agree with the denial.
Yeah,
Go
I'm
ahead.
very sympathetic to the situation, and it is really heartbreaking, but truly, it is not, I look at the property, and it does not meet zoning requirements, just in the face of it. And so I also agree with Board Member Scales on his recommendation.
I'll echo those comments. It's the textbook example that you really never want to see for a variance request of self-created hardship. I think that's clear. We can kind of dance around that issue. I think the other one that, I feel like I have to mention, from a review standpoint, had a discussion with someone earlier today, planning related. We spend so much time on the planning end. We have, in this case, variances, we're looking at 3 criteria, but we have site plans, we have plot plans. We spend so much time on the front end, and on the back end, if no one inspects that work, what good is the front end review that we spend so much time on? So I'm not sure what processes internally we have to look at that. I feel that is important. 99% of the time it probably goes right, but it's that 1% that creates substantial hardship. In this case, the applicant, it sounds like, demo, rebuild over $1 million. Maybe self-created, but I definitely sympathize with that. That's real money. So it's a tough situation. We're in a tough spot as a board looking at 3 criteria. I think fortunately you did purchase the adjacent properties. I'm glad of that. Glad that was an option. But I do kind of echo Board Member Smith and Skills, their sentiments, and Board Member Flushauer as well. So any additional discussion? All right, so we have a motion made by Board Member Scales, second by Board Member Smith for denial of all 3 variance requests. Let's go one by one on the vote. Board Member Scales.
Vote to deny.
Okay, Board Member Langley, I vote to deny as well. Board Member Smith?
Vote to deny.
And Board Member Flushauer.
Deny.
All right, so these variances are denied then, so none of these are approved. All right. Kind of out with a bang, unfortunately. It's a challenging situation. So I think we are down to adjournment. Is there a motion for adjournment?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Board Member Scales, second by Board Member Smith. All in favor say aye. Aye. Or anyone opposed? Everybody have a great 4th.